Don't know if I was aware a piece was missing. Better late than never for you and me.
Welcome, everyone, to Coachinginsession. My name is Michael Reven, and I'll be your mindset coach this evening. So, if you stay tuned for the Monday podcast, we were talking about failure, and we were tying failure in with regret. Because we can have failures in our life, because those are going to be maybe, if not the best lessons we'll ever receive in life. But regrets, those are typically going to be things that we wish didn't happen. We're going to get to a point and we're going to say, I regret I didn't do something. Whether it be investing in the stock market, maybe taking the dive at a relationship, it could be anything. But what we have to understand is that we do need failures in order to get ahead, to achieve more. And there's this idea: how can we fail forward? How can we fail towards success? And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's podcast. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things that videos like. And let's get into how to fail forward. So, a little bit about me. Before I became a coach, I was a teacher, former educator. And I write about this often in my blogs. And I always talk about the amazing mentors I had, the amazing teachers I had along the way in college, and how they helped me to be better than I was. They helped to elevate me to where I needed to be. And I find that to be interesting because these teachers are just regular people, right? How can someone bring out so much potential in a person? Well, when you've been doing it as long as my mentors, my teachers have been doing it, you get a knack for it. And I'm not saying that every educator gets that knack. The good ones do. And maybe even the mediocre ones will get this type of knack. They're going to say, this person needs this in their life. I'm going to help them get it. And those people are going to be the people who can help elevate you, bring you to the next level, as college should. And I always think about, if I had the opportunity to live life over, what would I do? Well, of course, we know I would invest in Amazon, Tesla, Monster, Apple, Microsoft. Yeah, that's a given. But what would I do in life? Would I just simply say, I'm going to create a large amount of money and go live in the forest? Could be, right? Simple life. But then where's the living, right? I literally had a chance to redo life and I just did it better. Now I have an abundance of wealth, but I'm not really living any differently. So I was thinking, would I go back to college? Would I spend the money, spend the time to go get a college degree? And every single time I ask myself this question, it's always yes, I would. And I'm not saying that college is for everyone. Of course it's not. Because you can be a millionaire with a GED. All right, that's going to be your high school equivalent. So if you don't have a high school diploma, you can get a high school GED. It's going to be equivalent to that. And I know people who said at sophomore year, they said, I wish I dropped out sophomore year and just got a GED. So what makes education different for different folks, for different strokes, whatever? Now we have people who need to get an education because they look for more knowledge or they're seeking a different type of career. And by different type of career, I'm talking about someone who's going to be looking to become like a doctor, for example. Now, if you go to school to become a doctor, you have an extensive knowledge of what it takes to become a doctor. You have done your internships, you have done your field studies, whatever your all your classes, and you are now able to take care of people through experience. Now, were you a good doctor when you first started off? Heck no. Heck no, you were not a good doctor when you started off. Because if you compare yourself to where you were on day one to where you are maybe year 5, I would hope that you're in a better place. Because if not, you just wasted 5 years of your career. We have to grow. We have to become better. So on day one, when I was teaching and learning how to coach and do all these things that I had a knack for, I was good at, but it wasn't until I applied them to the real world, because I could read as many books as I can fit in a day, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the knowledge I gain is going to be something I'm able to apply in my life immediately. So if I'm not able to apply what I gain in the sense of knowledge, what is the point of getting an abundance of knowledge, i.e., going to college? Because in college, you meet people, right? And you can meet these people on the streets too, but it's a different setting. When you're in college, you have a different perspective of what is going to be accepted and what is not going to be accepted. For the people who are in college to be educators, for example, I'm going to hold them at a higher caliber than I would if someone was going to school just for accounting. Now, of course, you don't want to be an accountant and mess up someone's money, but at the same time, money can be fixed. When we have education, now we're dealing with minds, and these minds are going to be susceptible to influence, especially younger minds. So these people who are going to be teachers, what is their ambition for the next generation? Maybe they want them to be better than they were. Maybe they just want them to get a good education. Maybe they wanted to make learning fun because learning wasn't fun for them, for example. It could be a plethora of things. But what we need to understand is that not all teachers are going to be equal. Can you remember any bad teachers? My second grade teacher, she was a lovely lady, but she only lasted 1 year in the school, and I wonder why. And it could be money reasons, right? But she just was a sour person. Maybe her personal life wasn't the way she wanted it to go, and it reflected in her teaching. She was negative, she was very sharp, abrupt, and not in the good sense. Because I went to Catholic schools growing up, private schools, and we had nuns teach us. Now, the second grade teacher wasn't a nun, she was just a teacher. But even then, the nuns that were sharp and precise in what they wanted, they were skilled in educating. They had a gift for it, they had a knack for it. And then in college, you're going to find professors who are able to bring out that little bit extra in you. They're going to find out where you're struggling, and they're going to help you get to the next level. And for me, in order for me to grow at the college level, I needed to fail at the college level. So I failed, not any classes per se, but I failed maybe on an assignment if I had to go up and teach the class and say, okay, I have to teach a class this because I'm going to be a teacher. So I need to be able to take the knowledge that I have within my brain and relay it to the people in front of me. Doesn't matter the age, whether you're in elementary or college. I need to be able to take this knowledge, this set of information, and give it to you so you can understand it. Now, if you've ever tried to do that with different age groups, you'll know that every single age group is different. You can't teach elementary the same way you do college. Now, in teaching, though, you learn knacks. You learn how to implement different strategies you can use at any grade level, any age. And it's because the mind is somewhat similar regardless of age. Typically, it wants to be playful. Typically, it likes a challenge that is approachable. Keyword approachable. Because if I gave you a challenge to be number one in a tournament, a marathon, that's going to be difficult. Now, you might be one of the best runners in the world, but nonetheless, there's going to be people vying for that number one spot, and there's only one spot. So how can we make sure we get that number one spot? Well, we have to train. And we can't be afraid to train. So yeah, now I'm in class and I'm teaching children and I'm teaching adults and I'm experimenting what works, what doesn't work. And you find out very quick what doesn't work. Because typically, if it doesn't work, everything starts to go wrong. People start talking, people are not paying attention. You see that retention is not good, whether it be information or focus. Now we have a different type of learning environment. And it's not conducive to learning. So if a teacher cannot create a learning environment, how can they teach effectively? That's the thing. You have to learn how to do that when you're a teacher. And then you have to have the right type of heart in order to make sure you're doing the right thing. Because I know teachers who will give every ounce of them, 100% every single day, to make sure that the students are in a better position, a better place. At the same turn, I know many teachers who go into work and they're not happy. They're not excited to come in. They're ready to quit. And those type of personalities, when they're ready to quit, it doesn't mean they're bad teachers. Maybe they're burnt out. But what you do if the teacher just got into teaching and they're not effective? So now you have an ineffective teacher who is not able to teach anyone, but they're expected to be the saving grace and the educator for your child. Okay. Well, that teacher is going to do more destruction than good. Now, of course, they can act like a babysitter, and that's where the whole teacher babysitter stuff comes in. But if this teacher is not ambitious, if they're not hopeful and optimistic for these children, the children have to make up their own type of thinking, their own type of learning. What do I think about this? So now we have limiting beliefs forming. Now we have behavioral problems forming. And then we start pointing the finger. Who's to blame? Is it the parents? Is it the teacher? Is it the student? So we learn at a young age that failure, in the sense of I'm not who I'm supposed to be, will I ever be that person I'm supposed to be? So then now we have a stigma of, will I surmount to anything in life? So people start to think, I'm not going to be anything, so I'm not even going to try in school. So they fail without even trying. And sometimes we can save those students, sometimes we can't. But what is essential is to make sure we don't do any harm initially to those students. So we say, okay, we have students who have not been blemished from society, from negativity. We have a blank canvas. And we can paint the best painting we're able to paint on this canvas. And I'm not saying that the student shouldn't have any free will or any type of imagination, because they should retain that. But if we look at the school system, it's built to kill that. So hopefully you can have a teacher who does their best to try to retain that as much as possible. But then something happens. We grow up. Now we're no longer kids. Maybe we're in high school, maybe going on to college, or maybe going off into the workforce. How many of those people are afraid to fail? I can't tell you how many high school students email me and they just ask for advice. They just say, "Hey, Mr. Michael, I'm graduating this year and I don't know what I should do with my life." And I ask them, "Well, what are you good at?" And they say, "Well, I'm pretty good at drawing, or I'm pretty good at a sport." And we talk about it. And we create a vision for them. And that vision gives them some type of focus. But even though they have that focus for something to aim for, there's a little whisper in the back of their mind. And they ask me, "But what if I fail? What do I do if I mess up?" They're so concerned about what could happen, then what do we need to do right now? Because if you understand that the actions you take now can lead to a better tomorrow, to something more inclined to your most desired life down the future, you're going to notice that you're not really worried about what could happen. You're worried about what needs to happen. So if you need to put in some work, some hours, why not try to put in those hours? And hey, maybe you fail, but it doesn't mean you have to give up. Because if I fail at something, it's just an indicator that I need to work a little bit harder. And when I was student teaching, especially, the teacher would give me feedback. They would say, "Hey, maybe you should try to do it this way. It's going to be more effective." So what I did wasn't effective. So now I learned how to be more effective. I failed initially, but I took that lesson and that guidance and I said, "Hey, now I'm going to make it so I don't have those same mistakes." So failure is actually a good thing, because if I never had those failures, if I never had a type of negativity where I learn like, okay, I can do this better if I don't do this, or doing this is not effective, I should do it this way. People are afraid to fail. Maybe it's because in the school system, we give you a test, typically a memorization test, and then we say, "Okay, take your test and we'll see what we are going to get as a grade." Then you get your grade and we label you. You're an A student, you're a B student, you're a C student, you're a dummy. And though you might not think psychologically that has an effect on a child, it does. It does. Because the moment they get their test, they look at it and they either hide it or they ask their friend, "What did they get?" And typically, if they're asking their friend, they have a score that they are willing to share with someone. "I got a B. I got an A plus. I'm doing great. I'm so smart. Acknowledge me. Cheer me on." And the people who need to be cheered on, that's a good thing, right? Like, we need some type of influence in our life to be better, to push ourselves. Because if you know anything about coaching, if you know anything about teaching, if you have someone pushing you, you're going to be better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If I was in the gym and I had a trainer, right? I don't need a trainer, but if I had a trainer and I was in the gym and I hired a trainer 3 times a week, I'm going to expect that trainer to push me every single time I'm in the gym with them. And I'm going to expect growth. Those are my expectations there. But I will push more with someone on my back saying, push it one more, let's do it again. Versus if I was left to my own accord. Because maybe I wasn't feeling good, right? Maybe I ate something that wasn't agreeing with my stomach. Maybe I didn't get enough sleep the night before and I wanted to take a break. Very possible. But at the same time, I'm not going to push myself if I give myself an excuse, a reason for not to push myself. So the gym experience, even though I was able to go to the gym, even though I was able to get a good workout in, even though I might have hit new PRs, personal records, in the gym that day, did I fail or did I succeed? Because if I didn't give every ounce of myself, is that a failure? Is it a success? And for me, I strive every single day to be more than what I was yesterday. So yeah, it is a failure for me, even though I go to the gym, even though I do really well. If there was something that I could have done better, and I consciously, keyword consciously, did not push past what I knew I could do, that's my fault. I failed. And I hold that failure as a lesson, not as a way to hold me down in life. Because people who hold failure as a negative and they say, well, I failed and I'm not able to do it again because that's life. Well, just get over it. You're going to have failures. They're going to be lessons. But then I learned the trigger cues. What caused me not to push myself in the gym? Now I'm thinking, what was the reason for the failure? And then I start to build up all the problems. And then I reinforce a positive nature on those failures, the positive aspect to spin what needed to be done rather than what I did. And then I start to have success. I'm not worried about making a mistake. I'm not worried about, well, what if I don't push myself? Because I understand if I don't push myself, I'm the person who needs to be held accountable. I need to hold myself accountable. And coaching, for the most part, is going to be dealing with making sure we hold you accountable. Because if you tell me your goal and you say you want to be the number one basketball player in the world, I say, okay, move over LeBron or move over Michael Jordan or whoever you want to label as number one in the world. And when we do that, now we have a choice. Do we put in the effort to be number one? Or do we say, it is too much work to be number one, and I don't want to do it? I had a young high school boy. Again, he says he wants to play soccer. I said, okay. Well, what do you want to accomplish with this goal of playing soccer? He goes, he wants to be in a certain division in soccer. I said, okay. Well, what is the practice regiment for someone who is in that type of career in that field? He told me, and I told him, I was like, if you want to be number one, you need to do this and then triple it. So if it's 50, you need to do 150. If it's 100, you need to do 300. And he was like, what? And I was like, yes. If you want to be number one, you need to triple whatever the top person right now is doing. And if you're not willing to do that, then guess what? You're not willing to be number one. So people are willing to fail, but not everyone's willing to put in the hard work. So how can we be successful if we're not willing to put in the hard work? Well, maybe your dreams are too big. Has anyone ever told you that? Maybe your dreams scare you too much and you should just choose something a little bit easier. Has anyone or you have told yourself that? Whispered in your ear saying, take it easy. You deserve a break. You're working too hard. Don't burn yourself out now. And as much as I would like to say, listen to your inner voice, I'm going to say, don't listen to your inner voice. Because your inner voice is going to be sometimes tricking you. Especially when you're pushing past your limits. If you're on the treadmill and you're running, your mind is going 100 miles an hour, your heart feels like it's about to hop out of your chest, and then all of a sudden, you're like, I need to hit the stop button, I need to hit the stop button, I need to hit the stop button. And then you hit the stop button. Now your heart finally settles down. Your mind said, thank you so much for saving me. But it was never really in any harm. The next time you want to give up on the treadmill, on a promotion, on a job, ask yourself, can I go more? And when you say, can you go more? Don't wait for an answer. Don't look for an answer. Go more. Do more. And I know there's a book, Grant Cardone. He calls it the 10X rule. And he says, if you want to do something big, it needs to be 10 times what you initially think it is. And I deal with mindset. I'm working with people who have some type of limitations in their mind, that they feel they can't get to where they need to go. So I'm going to help them get to where they need to be. And though 10X is great, I'm not going to shun that type of thinking. I'm not going to shun the 120%, even though for me, I think that's silly. Go 100% or go home. Simple, right? Give me 100% or go home. But then we have the 10X rule, right? You want to push 10, go for it. But for me, I always start at 3. 3 is a good number, and it's a number that the mind doesn't see as something that is impossible. Because if I ask you to do 100 laps anywhere, 100 push-ups, if I ask you to do 100 presentations, you're going to say, whoa, slow down, Mike. Are you crazy? And I'm going to say, maybe. But then after you do those 100 laps, those 100 presentations, whatever it was, I'm going to ask, how do you feel if I ask you to do 100 more? Maybe the next day, maybe not the same day because you might be tired. But then you say, I feel good. I feel confident. And that's the key. So how do we fail towards success? Our failures have to lead to a lesson, and that lesson has to bring a certain confidence into us where we say, even though I failed, I'm going to get up and I'm going to try again. And I'm going to keep on trying until I reach my goal. I'm going to keep on going. And I'm not going to give up until I achieve that goal, until I reach success. So the people who dare greatly, the people who decide that they're going to go after something in life and they don't stop until they get it, those people are the people who hit the top 1-2%. And the people who line the top 25%, they try, but guess what? Hard work is hard work, and maybe some days you don't feel like working hard. And then people below the 75% mark are going to be people who place contingencies and an outside stimulus as factors for why they don't succeed. So we have about 25% of people in the world who are going to be able to achieve wonderful success. And all I have to ask is, Are you that 25%, or are you that 75% that allows the world to dictate what is allotted for you? My name is Michael Reardon. I'm a mindset coach here in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions about the podcast, email me at coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I will see everyone on Friday for another episode, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, everyone, take care.